Hey there guys, this is Malorian and this will be another Warcaster review. Last time we covered Bethane and I got a request for Callus, so we're going to be covering him. Now, what we do here in these Warcaster reviews is we talk about their stats, their abilities, their tricks and tips, and some of the units they like to take. And so starting with that, we have from Legion of Everblight, Kallus. Now, this is a caster that has been much aligned by much of the Legion players. They kind of like some of the other ones, but when I played Legion, I thought this guy was great, and I played him quite often. It's probably from Callus that I started my whole infantry jam style. So let's get into him. He is Fury 6, which is alright. Speed 6, Strength 7, Mat 7, although it's going to get better. Also Rat 4, has no gun, doesn't matter. Defense 14, Armor 16, Command of 8, and he has no gun, like I said, only a weapon, which is his Hellbrand, which is a magical reach weapon, P+S 14, and it also has a rule that is called Flame Burst. And what it really means is, when this model boxes an enemy model with this weapon, enemy models within 1 inch of the box model suffer the continuous effect of fire. So what this really says is, hey, I'll get into some infantry, I'll kill one guy, and the rest will burst into flames. Sounds really cool. Sounds like he might be like a frontline caster. No, he's not. I have never had this come up where it actually mattered. You can play Callus in different ways. We'll get to that later. But just know that even though some of the things will make him sound like a melee caster, he really isn't. So for his other abilities, he has kind of a really interesting one here. It's called Hyper Regeneration. This model automatically heals D3 damage points at the start of his activation. So this has kind of to do with its fluff, where he's supposed to be like regenerating himself and all these things. But it's kind of nice where, if you ever take any little plinking damage, he can heal himself. If you ever need to cut yourself for fury, he can heal himself. So it's not super great, but it's definitely nice just to have on the card. Next, he is Soulless. Now, this you see a lot on the Legion Beasts, not so much on anything else, and we'll get to his feat why this is nice, but otherwise, it just says this model does not generate a soul token when destroyed. So really, for that part, unless you're playing like a 2-caster game or something like that, it's not going to matter, because when he dies, game over, but, it's something that's on his card. He also has Unconquerable. While in this model's command range, friendly faction warrior models gain unyielding. What this does then is basically when they are engaged, they get +2 armor. So again, this is a rule that kind of makes them want to be kind of more near the front. Really wants to take infantry. Again, be careful you don't get him too far forward, because +2 armor is nice, but you know what? When you go from armor 12 to 14, it really isn't like changing a lot. So something to keep in mind, but just remember that this isn't like super critical. Now, his spell list, he has 4 spells, and the first one's going to be the biggest one, and that is Dark Guidance. Really great spell. Cost 4, it's a self, and it says, while in this model's control area, friendly faction models gain an additional die for their melee attack rolls for this turn. And so it's a big part of his spells. That's 4 of his 6 right there for his 1 spell, but that really says, like, I don't care how high your defense is, probably, because I'm going to get boosted to hits all over. It's not even boosted, it's additional die. So if you have something like a beast or something like that, that means you can be getting 4 dice to hit, which can be really huge. Of course, if there's any critical effects, like we need a critical hit to do something like a pitch with Typhon, hey, that's great. But definitely one of his key spells is this Dark Guidance. He also has Eruption. This is a cost 3, range 8, AoE 3, POW 14, and it says models hit by this suffer a POW 14 damage roll. This is an AoE cloud that's going to stay in effect, and then anyone who enters or ends their movement in this cloud will suffer another POW 14. So this is something, again, where it could be really nice. Get this out there. It gets a little bit of board control, because then the infantry don't want to charge through this thing. But it costs 3, and to make sure he hits, he's probably going to boost. So this is another, like, 4 Fury play, but he only has 6 Fury. He really likes to do Dark Guidance, so this one really doesn't come up often, but hey, it's something on the card, and a POW 14 is not too bad either. Flashing Blade. This one costs 1 in itself, and really what this comes down to is that everyone in his line of sight, he gets to make an attack against. All enemies in his line of sight. There's an important one there. So again, he has reach, and he has that whole thing with Flame Burst, so you get this idea that you want to charge him into infantry and be like, Badoosh, 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 I hate you all, everybody else is lit on fire, this is awesome. And to be fair, that is a tool you can have in your tool belt, but again, be very careful about charging out Callus and making this happen, because this is how guys like Callus dies. So be very careful about that. Maybe when it's getting down to it, you just really need this work from Callus or something like that. But for the most part, yeah, I don't think I ever cast a Flashing Blade with Callus when I played him, because he's usually near farther the back, or at least the middle. So the next one here, last one, is going to be Ignite. This one is cost 2, range 6, and it says target friendly model or unit gains +1 to their melee attack roll damage rolls, and then they also get the critical fire on their melee attacks. So this is great, you know, whereas already we had something to correct to make it easier to hit in melee. Now we have something that's going to be even hitting stronger in melee. Plus, you get the critical, continuous fire. Critical is never great because you need doubles, but we already know that we're going to be having Dark Guidance. So when you're rolling 3 dice with all these guys, these criticals come up. So they're pretty nice to happen. So that's it. That's all of his spells. Now we get on to his feat, which makes him... This is probably the most interesting thing about him. While a friendly living non-incubus warrior model in Callus's control area is disabled by an enemy attack, you may replace it with an incubi model. So basically, while your guys are killed, while your troops are killed, they just turn into incubi while they're within 12 inches of Callus. So, hey, you just killed this cheap little legionnaire, he just turned into an incubi for me. Thanks, you just made me better. But it doesn't stop there. The second part also says, while in Callus's control area, friendly soulless warrior models gain +2 defense. Now, currently, as I make this, there are no soulless units or anything. The only soulless warrior models you're going to be seeing is Callus and also these incubi. So this is where it's actually important that's on Callus's card. These incubi then, they get to be made for free. They're going to be getting +2 defense. And so this is when we really get into how you want to play Callus. And, you know, there's the way that I played Callus, and then I'm going to talk about the other way that people play it as well. So for me, when you're looking at this, you want to be taking lots of infantry. Lots of infantry is going to be just swarming forward, and then when you get to that point when you're going to engage, well, you're going to be having, of course, Ignite on a unit to get ready to attack. You're going to be going and popping your feet, and then when they want to attack you, they're not really going to get anywhere. They might not even attack, because for every guy they kill, it's just going to turn into an incubi. So what I've seen with this is that you use this to get really far up the table board, and then you don't lose that position, because as they try and kill you back, you just turn into incubi. Those incubi are hard to kill, and even if they do kill them, you're just stopping them. You know, sometimes you can shoot down some guys and gain some ground back. These guys just say, nope, I am here, and it's going to be really hard to move me out of the way. Now again, because of that, and because your opponent won't want to make your models better and turn them into incubi, sometimes they just don't attack you. They just don't. And that's not a bad thing. You know, if your feat actually rode or said here, your warrior models don't take any damage, well, that's awesome, right? I didn't get attacked. I jammed up, nobody attacked me, and now I'm ready to cast Dark Guidance and keep on attacking. And so really either way that goes, it goes really well for you. What I found because of that, like I said, a lot of times when people realize that attacking me made me better, is that they would stay back and not come at me. And then sometimes too, especially when how things were going, I would feel like they weren't trying to push in when I wanted them to come to me, because I want them to dedicate to try and do what they can, but they kind of would run away. And so what I do to try and counter that is I actually found taking that range models worked really well with Callus. Sometimes he wants the cheap stuff. He wants to have the grotesques of all things. I know some people don't like them, but I like them, especially with Callus. And also things like Legionnaires. Cheap, 6 points for 10 models. Running up there, jam, and saying, okay, you killed me? Oh, whatever, now I'm an Incubi. I got even better. Well, I found I actually taking things like Striders, because again, I'm trying to jam in deeper, and I also like taking things like Archers. And what that really did then is kind of more go, instead of for jamming for a scenario, go for the attrition. I come up here, I'm shooting you here with Archers, and then when you finally say, damn it, I gotta go and commit to deal with all these shooters, well, they come into you, you cast Dark Guidance, and you can shoot with some guys, the grotesque charge over your lines, get into there, you popped your feet, and now you're really pushing that attrition game as well. So normally with that then, what Callus does is that when he starts his turn, he's going to go and he's going to be upkeeping Ignite, so there's one of his 6, casting Dark Guidance, and then camping 1. That's one of the reasons why some people don't like Callus, because they find that a little bit boring, but man, is it really effective. Earlier on, if you are doing that thing where you're not engaging, hey, you could do some eruptions. If you have a Spell Martyr, or, well, pretty much that, because you don't want to get Callus too close, you can have some Spell Martyrs up there that can be setting off some eruptions and starting to do some early damage. Again, trying to do some more of that range attack, trying to draw them into you. That can work just fine. An interesting thing there is then the beast load for Callus. Some people like taking like a melee beast and like really pumping up that melee attack. Say like with Scythians, you can go and now try to say like your Dark Guidance, make sure you're going to hit, make sure you're going to get those chain attacks. The chain attacks are all getting those additional dies, and that can work really well too. You know, some people say, I'm not going to go with infantry, I'm going to take more combat beasts and buff them up that way. Another way you can go is take almost no beasts. For me, I would take 1 light, normally say like a Nephilim warrior, or soldier rather, and what happens is that when you're doing this, you actually don't generate enough fury to make back what you're casting, but it doesn't matter, because then with my hyper regeneration, I can cut myself and just heal it right back. And by not taking heavies and lots of beasts, I'm just getting more infantry, which really helps the jam. Again, I think this Callus is what really got me into this whole infantry jam thing. Now again, there's another way to play this, and this is the whole range game. This is where you take things like Ravagors, and you look at this and you think like, Ravagors, why are you doing this with Callus? Well, the reason is because while you're staying back and you're fine, your Ravagors are shooting and they're doing damage, and then if they ever come up to try and engage you, you have 2 things going for you. One, Callus can go up there and do 1 flashing blade and clear off everything around that's actually might have ran up and jammed your Ravagors. But the other thing is too, is that it's time for those Ravagors to really fight. Ravagors' real negative is that they have low mat and relatively low POW for heavies. But if you have Dark Guidance and Ignite, which you could always swap between 2 Ravagors, they're actually really good in melee as well. So, like I said, I feel the strongest way to play Callus is to do the whole infantry swarm. Another interesting thing with Grotesque as well with that is that if you can draw them into yourself, you then have your normal frontline melee guys like your swordsman, your hex hunter, your legionnaires, whatever guys you have in the front there. They go in first and kill off the front line after they try and hit your jam, and then of course your archers go and they shoot whatever they can, your striders shooting whatever they can, and then the grotesque go, and they can, since they have flight, they can fly over and charge and hit the next layer. So that's another way where the grotesque can kind of work in with that. But yeah, that's the way I like drawing the most. You can also do this with combat heavies. You can also do this with ranged heavies. And then of course you can always do the mixed game in between. But I find you find the most success in this War Machine game when you go for a skew. And the skew that I found the most beneficial and consistent was just the infantry jam. So there you go. There's Callus. again, he's a caster that you don't see very often, and there's no reason why he can't be one of your two. If you really like Epic Veil, or if you really like Veil or Lilith 2, and you really like this whole like range assassination thing, well, if you ever run into one of those situations where I just can't do this, I can't get off the assassination, a great one to fall to is something like Callus, and saying, okay, I'm just going to swarm you instead. As well, if they see that you have Callus and you have all this infantry, they might say, wow, I got to take a list that's really good at clearing it, and then all of a sudden you drop that, say, Veil 2 list with all these heavies, and all of a sudden it's exactly the opposite. So you kind of really make it harder for the list chicken as well. So it's almost like when you're running Mortenebra with Crix. If everything you do in Crix is the same lots of dudes, they just drop the list that's anti-lots of dudes. In Legion, if you're always dropping a whole bunch of beasts in all your lists, they take the list that's good at anti-beast. But if you have one that's beast and one that's infantry, they don't know which way to go with that list chicken, and sometimes you get lucky. So there you go, guys. There's Callus. Please comment down below if I missed anything or if you have any other thoughts on Callus, and we'll catch you later. Bye.